Tuanjiehu Park. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting. So I was actually going to do an update on the Would I Live in China in 2026 vlog. I've been at the hospital this morning and I thought I would come to this park because I thought it would be quiet. And then look what I've walked into. There are people everywhere and there's like a band here, which is very interesting. So I think I'm gonna find somewhere, like I'm gonna keep walking in the park and try and work out what's going on too. Have a look. Wild. So I hope the microphone quality is enough, but without further ado, wow, the lighting's not gonna be very good today. Let's do a bit of an update of Would I Live in China in 2026. And yes, I'm gonna walk slower today so it's not so jiggly. Okay, maybe I should introduce like the different categories I'm going to talk about today. The first one being money, and then we're going to talk about convenience of living in China, and then we're going to talk about healthcare, and then driving in Beijing. So first, I've never actually been to this park before, and I thought I would maybe make this a series. So this is Tuanjiehu 是的，稍等一下，是的。Tuanjiehu Park in Chinese, or in English, Tuanjiehu Park. This is like near Chaoyang Park, but a smaller park. Sometimes I think whether I should walk faster so I'm not like disturbing someone's like whole walk. There's actually people everywhere today. So yeah, today we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about convenience of living in China. We're going to talk about healthcare, and we're going to talk about driving, especially in Beijing, because it is quite different from driving in other cities. Okay, so first let's talk about money. And one thing I actually like about vlogging here is I think if I'm talking like at a normal rate, it's not that obvious what I'm saying. So that's a good thing, right? And like also just such a vibe, like all the locals. So fun. Okay, so let's talk about money in China. So I guess today is payday for me. And what's the money like? Like how much money can you actually make here? And I guess to preface this, the tax system is a lot different and a lot more beneficial to Australia. It's like a progressive tax system here that operates on a monthly cadence, but I'm clearing nothing. Like in China, I'm not clearing anything. Like in terms of after I pay rent, there's not a lot of money left over. And so would I live in China? Yes, but like I'm starting with money because like if you don't have money, whether you're here or anywhere else in the world, it's difficult, right? And like I'm obviously really grateful and lucky that I have support from my loved ones, but if I didn't have that support, like I couldn't live the life that I do here. And a lot of people have commented this on my YouTube, like yes, I do have support and that's why I live such a great life. There's aunties like dancing, someone's doing Tai Chi. And that's actually one like cultural difference is like in Australia, if you were filming someone without their consent, I feel like they would say something to you, but it seems like in China, it doesn't matter so much. So, okay, let's talk about money. So at the moment, I'm spending about 9,000 renminbi a month on rent. And this is because in China, well, in Beijing specifically, I feel like it's just expensive to rent. I'm actually going to go up this section here. And I think this is just going to be a little bit more quiet and the lighting might be a bit better because like it's very bright today. Sun is shining in Beijing, hey? So yeah, from a money perspective, today is payday. So I'll tell you what I clear, but basically it's not a lot after I pay rent. So I'm very lucky, like maybe I should go into a bit more depth about like the company that I work for and all of that. But yeah, a limiting factor as a foreigner in China is that it's quite difficult or it's basically impossible. This is actually the perfect spot to just like sit here and talk to you guys. It's quite impossible to have a working Z visa and work for yourself while also working for someone else. So that's something to consider. Like I didn't really know that, well I did, but I thought there would be ways to get around it, but there's just no ways to get around it. So you're either running your own business or you're working for someone else. And when you're working for someone else, the salaries are going to be a lot lower than Australia. But also the living costs are lower. But then if you're like me and you're still thinking in AUD, you think things are affordable, but they're just not. Okay, maybe I'll just give you a quick baseline in terms of like other expenses that you might expect. So the lighting's okay here, right? Yeah. So other expenses, Beijing is obviously really expensive to rent and I live near Olympic Gongyuar, which is Olympic Park. So I pay 9,000 a month, Chabador, and the electricity is really cheap. I think it's like 100 renminbi, maybe a little bit more per month. And then apart from that, the other expenses like food is going to be a lot cheaper here. Actually, we'll go into this a little bit later in the video, but I've just been at a hospital and it's a lot cheaper to get medical care here. It's just like quite overwhelming, if I'm honest. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of insight into money. In terms of meals, like a typical meal for me, I'm just eating like high protein, healthy meals. And so a typical meal for me will be like 50 renminbi. So let's talk about convenience. I'm going to split this into daily life convenience and then more like long-term convenience, because I do want to talk about driving in China as a Westerner. The daily life convenience here is phenomenal. And I guess only caveat is that you can't drive, or you can drive, but it's really difficult to get a license in Beijing as a Wagoran. And so I guess daily life convenience here, if you're trying to learn, like say you're studying at university, how cool is this, by the way? This is perfect. And there's all people walking down here. So in terms of daily life convenience, the food delivery is amazing. So if you're trying to study or build a business in Beijing, in China, it's super convenient because you won't have a lot of other, is this like a religious site? I'm gonna turn around because I think this is a religious site. Never mind, let's just walk on the path like a normal person. So yeah, the daily life convenience in terms of like, you don't have to cook because you can just order Waimai, but I have been experiencing some like tummy issues. So I don't know if that's like because of the nutrients that I'm eating, but I am tracking what I'm eating using AI now. So yeah, I've gone to the hospital this morning. We're going to talk about that later in the video. Well, like now, because this is like the long-term convenience, right? Anyway, that's enough about food. I guess DD, you can get DD, but that's why I prefaced this video with like having money here. It's obviously easy to get a DD. You've got to have the money to fund the DD. And in Beijing, I do recommend getting a premium DD because otherwise there's so much cigarette smoke and like it's just not that like pleasant. Like I'd rather get the subway. And I guess that's the daily life convenience. If you live near a subway station, it's pretty convenient to just jump on the subway to be like 5 renminbi to go wherever you want. But I guess in Beijing, it's not that convenient because like I feel like wherever you go, it's like an hour either way. So there's a bit of time in that. In terms of daily life convenience too, like I'm going to talk about healthcare very specifically because the reason I'm walking around this park is I'm waiting for some health results at a local hospital. So I guess if you can't speak Chinese, 如果你不会说中文，我觉得住在中国不方便. And this is like, even for me, I can speak like, I would say survival Chinese, which means that like I can, as I'm walking past people, I'm just going to change the angle because I don't want to film them while they're just like having their walk. If you can't speak Chinese at all, I just feel like life here is going to be a little bit inconvenient. So I've lived here for 6 months right now. And if I can speak daily Chinese, that just makes it easier to understand. And actually the Xiaomi glasses are really helpful because when I'm in places like hospitals, I just wear the Xiaomi glasses and I can understand everything. But like in everyday life now, I can understand like how to order, have conversations with people. Like before, I'll insert a pic here. I was like walking, there was this like stuff flying in the air. And I just asked this guy on the street who was just like waiting for his DD. I was like, what is this? And he was like telling me it's like a flower. And then he was like, can I take a photo with you? And I was like, yeah. And he was asking me about my name and where I'm from. And so, yeah, like I guess in terms of that, if you don't speak Chinese, like in terms of daily life convenience, you could definitely live here. I think Shanghai is probably a little bit more convenient, but like, I just feel like if you're living in a foreign country, like you should speak the language, right? This is so cute. I'm walking past like all these aunties who are like dancing. I feel like people in China like are so healthy. It's crazy. Also, are these cherry blossoms? Can I read this Chinese? 等一下. Wang Hui Chang. I can't read that Chinese like very easily. All right. So yeah, in terms of like, 如果你不会说中文，我觉得住在中国 like continuously living here 不方便. For example, 比如说，如果你用外卖, if you use Meituan, which if you hear people saying why my, that means takeaway food. And the company is Meituan. I had some comments or questions about that on my TikTok. But yeah, basically if you use Meituan, you download the app, you need to click why my, so then you're not just like ordering takeaway to pick up. I feel like the vlogs at the moment are just like super hectic. Like I don't know why, but I need to find like a better rhythm of like not vlogging while I have like 5 minutes to talk to you guys about this like really complex stuff. This is cool. I guess like daily life convenience, receiving deliveries, right? So I used to be 我感觉太怕 我用外卖 and people and the delivery drivers like give you a phone call and they're like blah 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 他们说得很快. But now I answer the phone calls to practice my Chinese. So usually they'll say like 在门口, which is like at your door, or they might say can you open the door, which is like if you live in an apartment building they'll be like asking you to open the bottom door to enter. So anyway, that's a little bit about speaking Chinese and living here. Okay, and then let's talk about like long-term convenience of living here. So I guess if you want to travel China, obviously if you've got money, you can travel, and using the high-speed train is just so convenient. So I actually saw a news article the other day that there's a gaoxie, or a high-speed train that they just trialed from Beijing to Shanghai, and this was like a 2.5-hour flight, and you can get on the high-speed train for 30 minutes. And so like the high-speed rail network here and the ability you have to just like explore new places is crazy. Like especially if you work for yourself, then you can work from wherever you want to. Like so cool. Okay, there's a car, nice. Actually, I've never been to this park before, but it's pretty cool. Would recommend. How do we say this park? Tuanjiehu Park. So that's a little bit about travel and high-speed train. I think one other long-term convenience factor here is like it's so easy to find a house to rent. And so if you're like in Australia, 如果你在澳大利亚, it's really hard to find a like apartment to rent. Like you kind of have to, you don't have to buy, but like you have to spend a lot on rent. And like, yeah, in Beijing, you have to spend a lot on rent too, but it's so easy. You find a place and then you move in on the same day, whereas in Australia, like it's a process. And then I guess like what I want to talk about, I'm actually going to sit on this bench just to rest a little bit. To wrap up this section of like long-term living in China, I want to talk about healthcare. So I've just been at the hospital and I've gone to quite a few different like options now in China in terms of healthcare. And I would say it's largely overwhelming. 如果你不会说中文，在中国医院很难 because you will find that the support staff don't speak English, and the doctor that I just saw, very interestingly, couldn't speak any English at all. And it was helpful because I've got my Xiaomi glasses, and so I put my Xiaomi glasses on and then I open up my Chinese phone. Let me show you. Also, are you guys proud of me? Like I'm so not scared filming in public now. Like there are a million people here. Okay, so basically what I do when I was talking to the doctor, I opened up my Chinese phone and had it sitting on the table. And then when she speaks Chinese, I can kind of understand the like approximate of what she's saying. But then I speak English and then it comes up in Chinese for her. Sometimes it's easier when it's very simple, like, are you hurt? What, like, 你痛吗? I can understand and just speak back or just repeat the verb back to her. So yeah, I guess healthcare here, it feels overwhelming. Like it's so not obvious where to go. And like there's a million people in the hospitals, which makes it kind of overwhelming, like me or Wagwan. So if you have the confidence to just like be in there, then do it. And like, I think that's one thing about like whether I'm filming myself in public, you've kind of just got to have no, like these people that just walk past me were all like, whoa, Nisha Shay. And like, you've just got to have the confidence to own yourself, and it helps because I can understand what they say in Chinese, especially with the Xiaomi glasses, because the Xiaomi glasses have a slight delay. But like, for example, so I had to do a urine test, right? They gave me 2 canisters, one with a lid, one without a lid. And then he calls me and was like, why didn't you put urine in the second one without the lid? And I was like, it didn't have a lid. And then when I got back to the window to like redo the test, I was like, yeah, this one didn't have a lid. And it just helps that I can speak that like very simple Chinese. And I don't even know if I said it correctly, but they understood me. So yeah, I guess in terms of healthcare, I did have a really good experience at the dentist, by the way. So I had a root canal, and I've got a talking head style video to edit to talk about more about the root canal. But I guess the cost of healthcare here, it is accessible. Like you have to have the balls to be in a Chinese hospital, but it's cheap. Like, for example, so the root canal in Australia would cost about 4,000 AUD plus the crown. So like expensive, 8 grand maybe. If you're a dentist, you can correct me. But here it's like 4,000 which is 4,000 renminbi for the whole thing, including the crown. So I guess healthcare is accessible. And I would say now that I've had some different experiences at different Chinese hospitals, you really need an appointment. If you have an appointment, it is definitely easier to see a doctor. Basically, my approach to get this appointment, like I've got a sore tummy, right? And I just researched on AI, like what hospital I should go to. I found an appointment. And yeah, it's a process once you get in there. I should probably unpack that. I guess it's hard to film in a hospital because like this is a women's hospital. You don't really want to like film people. I did take some photos on my Xiaomi glasses, so maybe I can unpack what to do in a different video. Now, chapter 4, driving. So driving in China is so different to driving in Australia. For example, yeah, there's people like stopping and just like looking at me. This lady was like, she's like, what are you doing? So driving here, as I said, you don't really need a car, but long-term convenience, like maybe you do want to have a car. And so let me talk about how to get a car in China. So as I said, getting on the subway is like 4 RMB, which is like nothing. And then you can get DDs and you could rent a car. It's actually easy to get a driver's license here. It's just not easy to get a license plate. So let's imagine you're buying a car in Australia, right? 很容易. So basically you just go, if you have the money, you just buy the car. It's not that serious. Here, it works very differently. You need the license plate before you buy the car. And so I've made some notes on this because like still I don't really understand it, but I kind of do. Basically, so I have a working Z visa, right? Which is different from like what we would call a green card. So I have to, my visa is connected to the company I work for. And yes, in the previous vlog, I said I'm going to start a company here. I'm in the process of doing that. So I'll transfer my visa. I'm actually going to live in Australia and then just multiple entry visas here. But basically that's different to a Beijing work residence permit. And so a Beijing work residence permit, because of the wording, that's the direct translation, that's the green card. So basically if you have one of these green cards, you can bypass the 5-year rule. But basically if I was, for example, teaching long-term in Beijing, and by the way, this is just Beijing specific. If I was teaching long-term in Beijing, I would need to have lived here for 5 years before I can even enter the lottery to get a car license. So you need to pay tax in China, in Beijing, for 5 years. And then let's just start with the stats. So after that 5 years, if I enter the lottery, I have a 0.1% chance of getting a license plate for a fuel car. An EV, AI estimates that I would wait 18 years for a license plate, which is interesting, right? I did research that if you have a friend or colleague who has been in Beijing and owns more than one car, they can transfer the car and the plate directly to you, but you need a valid residence permit. And I think that valid residence permit is the green card. Obviously the Chinese green card, or not obviously, it's the hardest green card to get in the world. So good luck. And also there's a bit of a process with getting a motorcycle. So I guess largely, 如果你住在 Beijing, just don't expect to drive. But then, and I guess that limits convenience, right? Okay, so I'm coming back to the question because now I've been talking at you for 22 minutes and it's time to go enjoy the rest of this part. So would I live in Beijing in 2026? I don't know. I think in terms of like today, we've obviously spoken about money, convenience, healthcare, driving. I think it's a great way, like if you've just graduated from uni and then you're looking for like a gap year, like this is the hub of innovation, right? So like this is a place to really like open your mindset. But like in terms of living here long term, 如果你不会说中文，住在中国很难 long term. I say that, but then I've got friends who have lived here for years and years and years and they can't speak any Chinese, which I guess is just like, to me, I like the convenience of like, I walked into Starbucks before and they were like, don't you want to order? And I was like, oh, I want to order on WeChat because I want to translate because I'm being careful about not eating lactose. I guess like that everyday convenience is important to me. Probably also, and like, it was so funny. I was just watching this video. I'm actually going to put this video in the description. But there was this guy like laughing about what cab drivers often say. And so cab drivers will often say like, where are you from? 你是哪国人? And then they'll say like, have you found a Chinese husband yet? And I guess like to answer the question, would I live in China long term? It's like, if you plan to marry a Chinese person, you can definitely live here. But then you have to consider it's going to be difficult because like I'm Australian, right? 我的父母住在墨尔本, and so if I marry someone Chinese, then like what does that look like long term? So let's wrap the video. In terms of money, the salaries are obviously a lot lower here, but the tax rate for small businesses, very good. The market obviously super competitive though, because there's people everywhere here. And so the domestic market is saturated, and like from a foreign perspective, is it saturated? Not necessarily, but you know, there's a lot of competition here. In terms of daily life convenience at an early time in your life, so convenient because you can really focus on learning your business. And I guess the standard of living here is phenomenal. There's a lot to do. It's really like fun and opening. Healthcare, in my experience, healthcare, a little bit difficult. I think if you do your research and you book an appointment, and I was feeling really overwhelmed before. I feel fine now. They just sent me a message that my lab results are ready, so that will be interesting. And then, yeah, in terms of driving, if driving is really important to you, would I live in China? Would I live in Beijing? No, because also it's on the other side of the road, but it is going to be difficult for you to get a license plate. So I hope you liked this video. Let's remind ourselves. I might do a series where I talking, walking, exploring park video every week, but 我在 Tuanjiehu Park. So relaxing, right? Okay, peace out. I'm going to go back to the hospital now. Bye.